Another Black Ice production. This here be
Hey, what's up, Chicago? It's your man, Maze Jackson, and we are live in studio. That's right. We are right here at www Intellectual Radio. We are an iHeart station, and I am here to tell you we got an action-packed show tonight. I got a lot to talk about. I don't know if you all know I had a pretty big weekend. And on top of that, live in studio, we got one of the boss ladies of Chicago. That's right. We have the publisher, not the editor, not the writer, but the publisher of the Chicago Defender, and she is live in studio. Now, if you are not watching us on www.intellectualradio.com, you can also check us out live on Facebook. Now, check it out. You can get us on Facebook Live. You can get us on the Defender Facebook page, as well as the Maze Jackson Facebook page. And I'm sure my intern is over there working diligently to ensure that you can get them on every page that we have to share. Now, before we get started, what I like to do is make sure that we show love to our Facebook Live audience who is out here. So, straight up, if you are out there, give us a thumbs up, give us a pound, let us know that you're watching, and throughout the course of the show, we will show you some love. So now up front, we got the beautiful love of my life, Commissioner Carrie Steele. She is watching. We just left Hillary Clinton's event, so babe, I hope you are cooking dinner and have it ready on the table when I get home. Woman, know your place. And I just want y'all to know, I do all the cooking in the house. I do all the cooking. When Carrie comes home, I try to make sure that it's on the table waiting so that she can be happy. But shout out to Commissioner Carrie Steele. Shout out to my main man, C. Sadiq Colquitt, better known as Chauncey C. Fluid. Chelsea Harvey, you know what that is, the Chi-Town girl about town. She has... Now, if you want to check out a blog, you want to know where to eat, where to brunch, what to do, check out my girl, Chelsea. Yo, Jesse K, I see you all the way from Champaign. Bo, Advisor, Supreme, calling for all the BDs. What's up? I see you out there. Terry Winston, you know we go way back. Kunta Kinte, Dad Slide Back. All right, let's get it cracking, y'all. It's been a great week. It's been on and popping. And we just gonna jump into it. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the studio, I have with me Miss Cheryl Mainor. Everybody say what's up to Cheryl. Hey, Cheryl, how are you today? See, if I had some sound effects, it would go, and then it'd be claps, and it'd be, I don't got sound effects, but stay tuned. So, Cheryl, yes. Welcome to first of all, ladies and gentlemen, I must tell you that I am honored to have the publisher, right? Like the publisher of the Chicago Defender live in studio. You know, Terry Winston hit me up last week or 3 weeks ago, said, hey, can Cheryl come on the show? And I said, are we talking about the same show? Because I'm just a little guy. You talking about the publisher. You ain't give me a writer. Didn't give me the editor. Dang on publisher. And then when I said it was in Broadview, you know, I was like, you know, I tape it in Broadview. I was like, you know, I ain't gonna get her. And she came all the way out to Broadview. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, join me in welcoming Miss Cheryl Mainor. Cheryl, how are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for coming out here today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what you may or may not know is I'm really cooking a big deal. I'm trying to connect Intellectual Radio, Maze Jackson, and the Defender for a live morning show. Now, Cheryl's already greenlit it, so it's not, I just haven't followed up, but I'm putting it out here right now so we can make sure that we get it done. Cheryl.
Maze.
So tell me what's going on. You are the publisher of the Chicago Defender. What exactly, now, for our listening audience, what exactly does the publisher do? Right, I know what the editor does. The editor is the person that says that goes, that don't go, this goes, you spelled that wrong, etc. I know what the writers do, but tell our audience what you are responsible for as a publisher.
Well, everything else.
Well, what does that include? Talk to me.
So the publisher's job is on the business side of the business.
Okay,
that's what I do. So there's this church and state thing that happens between what the finances are for a publication, however you, or a publication, a book, whatever, however you earn the money to be able to create the publication. And then there's the editorial side. So generally, as the publisher, I don't get very involved with what we do on an editorial basis, unless it's something that I think is very necessary. My job is to create and establish the relationships that allow our salespeople to be able to sell advertising, that allow our distribution channels to be able to work, and to basically look after the well-being and the financial health of the publication.
So now, Cheryl, explain to me, in a world where everything is digital and social and all that, how is the Defender doing, and how does the Defender make its way in this new rapidly changing world where we hear so many stories about print having so many challenges?
Well, first of all, when I say the publication, I don't just mean the publication in print.
Okay.
So, since the early 2000s, there has definitely been a decline in advertising in print publications, period, across the board. So those publications who were once just in print, who were not able to make a significant change in the way that they're disseminating news. We went from the word news to content.
Okay.
And so those who were not able to make that jump into becoming and seeing themselves as content producers versus a newspaper.
Okay.
Newspaper is a very noble and old business. There is a lot of stature in what we do. There's a lot of respect generally across the board in what we do. And so for a news, you say, I'm a newsman, or I'm a newspaper man, or I'm a newspaper woman. You didn't hear that very often, but even still, to make that change in your mind into I'm a content producer was a difficult thing for people to do. But so the Chicago Defender, we have a fly.
Ooh,
just letting everybody else know. We know, but just so you all know, I don't.
Guys, we do have a fly.
I don't have twitches or
right, and it's like a bold fly. Like he's landing like closely.
Yeah. So we have spent a considerable amount of time and energy. And always we can be doing more, and we're always looking to do more to recognize that our audience has changed. So we have an audience that's our established audience that's been with us for generation after generation after generation. We love them. We love what we're able to do for them, which is to provide news in print. And they like it that way, they read it that way, they look for it, and they require it that way. And we will continue to do that until there's no such thing as print anymore.
Or until they all go away.
Well, that's a long time.
Okay, got it.
And then we have our folks who are, in my general age group, who we do both.
Okay.
I read the newspapers and I look online. I get certain kind of content online, something that's quick, fast, in a hurry, and I get exactly what it is that I'm looking for. And then when I have the time to sit down, I sit down and I read newspaper, and I read everything from the front to the back. And then we have our other audience that is our up and coming audience, although they're very strong numbers wise.
Okay.
And they only look at us in a digital. They only get their news from us in a digital fashion. And so what I've been working on, and our staff since I've been there, is making sure that we're giving the news and content to people any way that they want to receive it.
Wonderful.
So that's how we've been able to do, and we do very well. We do very well digitally. Our numbers are increasingly growing every week, every day, even. And we're able to do something that we weren't able to do anymore in print, which is talk to and communicate with our audience, our readers on a daily basis, and now even on an hourly basis.
So tell me what is the I'm going to come back to Defender, but tell me, because you play a pretty significant role in NNPA, which is, what does the NNPA stand for now?
NNPA is the National Newspaper Publishers Association. It is the Black Press of America.
And so you're very involved in that. Do you see our print publications having the challenge of making the transition across the country, or do you think that we're making that transition pretty rapidly?
Well, I just came back from our national convention, literally, on Saturday afternoon. And so last week we were together, and for at least the last few years, we meet in rather large ways in January and June every year.
Okay.
For the last 75 years. So for the last few years, though, there has definitely been the concerted push to our member publications becoming and having a digital presence. There was some resistance, and I remember being back in NASA, I think back in like 1998.
Okay.
Maybe even might have even been 1997 in January. And so people still had, some people had AOL or MSN at home, and you had to dial up, and, I recall a major telecommunications provider being there and saying to everyone that they did this workshop and this is going to be the wave of the future, and boo, pitchforks and everything. What? But when I used to work at NNPA, and in 2000 I went there to develop an in-house advertising representation firm, and so worked there. I was the deputy director. Ben Jealous was the executive director.
Ben Jealous. So for all of you that don't know, Ben Jealous is the man for the Urban League, or is it the NAACP?
He was the president of NAACP.
Okay.
Now he's I think a venture capitalist.
Big consultant making all that dope.
Right. So we were there, and we worked with with Shell and a couple other companies, and they put up some money, and we developed what's called blackpressusa.com. So this was very early on. This is like 2000, 2001. And what it was a portal so that our member newspapers, it was very, well, at the time it seemed pretty avant-garde. But in hindsight, it was really pretty basic, and we were able to take, the newspapers that wanted to sign up for it. We had a grant to bring everybody on board that wanted to be on board. And we had this one portal. It still exists, blackpressusa.com. It's actually a pretty great site. And,
we're going to get me published on that, right?
Sure.
I love it. Yeah, that's awesome.
So we're always looking for content. So we developed that, and it gave newspapers all across the country. You could go there and you could see Black news from all across the country. And so since then, a lot of folks have come along. Closely following behind that was Black Planet and some other things that happened. But now, the majority of the 205 newspapers have websites, and the majority of them are active on social media. It varies their level of activity. And so they're starting to be able to handle advertising and some other things. So we meet and we really do a great workshop there that really helps people to understand and look. And so I think the organization just hired a consultant And she actually has a PhD in communication, but her emphasis is on social media.
Oh.
And so she'll be working with the publications and to really help bring everybody into, up to speed.
Okay. So Cheryl, let's. So if you know anything about me, you know I am all about this. What's in it for the Black people?
Sure.
And as we have continued to have murder, deaths, and kills by people inside of our community, but more particularly outside of our community. My question is, do you feel that the need there is still, we live in this society where everything is supposed to be, we're unified, we're all American. Do you think in today's times that there is really a need for Black press specifically? Black.
Are you kidding? That's
I need you to talk. No, because we have no fundamentally. Cheryl,
Sure.
one of the things that I do on this show is try to educate. We have probably more white viewers than Black viewers, and really oftentimes we have white viewers that are trying to get insights on our community.
Sure.
And so as we live in this world where everything is coming together and it's multiculturalism, and it's no longer, I was thinking about yesterday, did you watch the BET Awards at all?
No.
Okay, so Jesse,
I saw
so he does his speech, and Justin Timberlake sends out this tweet immediately following saying how, I was thinking about his speech, and we all need, it's one race, the human race. But it seems to me like Black people are the ones we keep seeing on TV getting killed. And so my question becomes, is there in this multicultural world a need still for Black media and Black press? And if so, why?
Well, yes.
You're like,
yes, there is. And I don't say that necessarily because of my position. Okay. Although I do say that because of my position as well. But we have to deal with reality. And so it's very convenient for Justin Timberlake to be able to say, we're all the human race. And that's true. That is a true statement, right? But there's also another true statement, which is we're members of the human race, but we still are not treated humanely.
Ooh, so, we are members of, okay, so pause. We are members of the human race, but we are not all treated humanely. Huge point. Go ahead.
Right. So, and there are conversations that we need to have in our community that we need to have with each other, and we need to be able to have them without necessarily the censor that we would have, where we have to be concerned about how that message is going to be construed, how that message is going to be received. And so in having the Black press, there are stories that we're going to cover that are not going to be covered, or they're going to be covered in a way that is germane to our people. And I'm trying to
so this is not
my words just
okay.
A little bit.
But so we're clear.
Yes.
That this is not the politically correct station.
Well, I don't want to.
So don't offend your sponsors, but I need for you to be clear.
I don't have any sponsors on here, but
okay.
Maybe I don't want to come off as some, as some, radical saber rattler or something like that, because I think that I am someone who gets it. But that to say, when I see a story that runs in the Sun Times, you might see a similar story that I'll give you an example. So there are some gentlemen who have come from, or they're bankers, and they are Americans, but their parents, their father's from Ghana, and they are businessmen in Ghana and also here in the United States of America. And they capitalized Illinois Service Federal.
They saved the bank, people.
Yes, they did.
They saved the black bank.
They did. So, which was something that needed to be done. And so the first thing, Sun Times jumps out there. Oh, here's a story, about the Africans, and they, and then, the Tribune jumps out there. Well, we were the first ones to interview them, right? But I'm not racing the headline. So, because the Sun Times, the Tribune, and other daily mainstream newspapers and Fox and those guys are all chasing the headlines. We're not interested in chasing the headline. We're interested in telling the story, the whole story, and the complexities of it. And what does this mean for our community? What does this mean for our people? What does this mean for relations and opportunities between Black businesses here in Chicago and possibly Black businesses that have their origins in Africa or in the Caribbean? There's a greater story of importance to our people than just jumping out there trying to chase a headline. The same thing goes with when you see greater of violent acts that might happen on the weekend. Right? So we can report that these violent acts happened on the weekend, which isn't really much of a report because your cousin and them live in the same neighborhood, so you already knew about it anyway, right?
Right. So
there's a bigger story that needs to that goes in there. What's happening? So I think you and for those who don't know, Maze used to do some writing with us, and
Maze still writes. Yes, we still write. So let's be clear.
So we had this story about the Mali culture and some other things that are going on. Blood in the streets, and it has a different take on what's happening. There's just a bigger story. So that's what we're here to do. And then also to look at what are some of the solutions. Not that we necessarily have all of the solutions, but we're talking to the people in the community who have some ideas for solutions, or already working on solutions, or already putting in, the work. They're putting it in. And these are some stories that we just don't get to hear, or we don't get the coverage on in the mainstream news. We're not a bleed and lead company. Love that. Not a bleed and lead company.
So let me jump in here, because Cheryl, I have made it my mission in life to ask the question that no one seems to want to ask, which is, what's in it for the Black people, right? And it's funny because I get so much pushback from that question, but oftentimes,
I wear the shirt.
but oftentimes the pushback is not from white people, it's from Black people. And I guess my question is, and as we live in this world, and as we have, I've been a big proponent of resegregation, sure. Because I feel like when we were segregated, at least we had our own entities and our own, we were able to kind of communicate to our people amongst ourselves. Now we believe whatever the white press puts in front of us, they print it, they put it on the news, and we're out. And at the same time, we have a publication like Defender, and I want to commend the Chicago Defender, and you particularly, right? Because just even taking the challenge to hire Maze Jackson, because I have not always been the most get along guy. But what I think is so important, Cheryl, is that we have independent thinking Black publications that can communicate our issues without necessarily having to be jaded or being lorded over by white folks. And so can you speak to a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, first of all, Maze does Maze. He does his thing. And you may not have to You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to disagree with it. You have to be respectful of differing point of views. You know, one of the things that you hear all the time is Black people are not monolithic. I remember being in the 90s and I was first starting out, and that was like one of the first catchphrases, first jargons that I learned about the Black media. The Black people are not monolithic. But here we are, right? In 2000 and what is this, 16 and a half? And we still get pushback, right? When we're not monolithic. And the fact of the matter is, just like we weren't monolithic then, we are not now. We are a people of disparate views, but one does not have to be necessarily disagreeable to the other. And progress has never been made by everybody only walking in lockstep with the same voice. I understand when people say we've got to have unity, but unity doesn't mean that we have to be clones, right?
Exactly.
So unity is in the statement, what's in it for the Black people. And at the end of the day, if you can't answer that question, then you need to take a step back and then maybe step back up to the mic when you have figured that out.
Bingo.
Whatever your answer is, right? So as the Chicago Defender, right? So the name of our paper is The Defender. And so I am trying to build on the legacy that was already laid before me. I didn't have to come in and try to figure it out. You're getting in here now, and you're having to, you got to figure this out. You didn't have what I had, you know, and this path that's already been led, and I need to get on the path and make sure that whatever I'm doing fits within the values of here, right? Which is number one, first and foremost, we are, our founder said, as always, here, right, to uphold and uplift the race, period. So anything else outside of that for me is stepping off of the path. So what it looks like might differ from issue to issue or this to that, but it's always in those lines. I'm not trying to color outside the lines. You have a different path. Right? You don't have the lines to stay in. You can color your lines over here, but you put as your mission what's in it for the Black people. Right. Which matches with to uphold and uplift the race. He didn't even call it Black. He called it the race. Like there was no other. So, you know, you kind of made that. And like me, okay, so that's my mission. So you got to live it. You know, it's not going to be nice and rosy all the time. And trust me, it's not for us. Lord knows it's not. You know, we've got some things that are coming up, right? Very soon. We have a senatorial race. And I was very vocal in the primary, right? I was very vocal about one of the candidates who was the front runner who refused to step foot in or speak to our to this part of the constituency at all. Right. And so, you know, we were not victorious, but I stepped out there. The thing that you really don't do that. You really don't do that. But again, I'm in the lines, right? So I'm here to uplift the race. So I got to step in here. I got to say something. And guess what? We didn't win. But she was tap dancing in the neighborhood 2 days later. The next day, she shows up at 95th Street, shaking people's hands, and then nobody know who she was. And guess what? She could go back there today and shake hands again, and still nobody will know who she is. So come November 8th, I think that's the date, we're going to have to make a choice. But prior to November 8th, we're going to have something to say. And it's not going to be easy to say it, I don't know what it's going to be. It really depends on what she does. But at the end of the day, if she doesn't do anything more than she already did, we're going to have something to say about it.
That is so awesome. So, Cheryl, first of all, you are tuned into the MazeSaid podcast. We are right here live on www.intellectualradio.com. We are an iHeartRadio station. You can download the podcast tomorrow, unless I'm good and this is a good show, Earl will get us up there tonight. But you can also give us a call, 708-223-8953. It's your man, Maze Jackson, live in studio with my special guest, publisher of the Chicago Defender, Miss Cheryl Mainor. Now, Cheryl, I have this. Can we just talk frank? Okay, just between me and you, right?
Frank,
just between
me and
me
you and everybody listening.
Me, you, and the world that's going to download it tomorrow. Cheryl, so it seems to me that over the last, let's say from 1960 to now, we probably have elected more black elected officials. We have elected a black president, but for some reason, it doesn't seem to me as though we're getting ahead. And this is not an indictment on the president. This is not an indictment on anybody else. But what do you think the issue is? It seems to me like in almost black folks are the base of the Democratic Party, but it seems to me as though we never seem to move from the basement. And so my question is, how do you deal with the premise that we are just supposed to go along because that guy's the enemy? I'll take it even deeper.
Well, I mean, I kind of just answered that, but this is a difficult conversation to have, and it's very complex for sure. I think this is my own personal. I try my best to, as a personal voter, to get all the information that I can on the candidates, which includes if they've already been elected before, how did they vote? Did they show up? What happened with their district or ward or state or whatever? Where did they fall on that? What does it mean? And then you got to listen to what they're saying. It's very rare that it happens that somebody gets elected and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I had no idea. A lot of times they'll tell you, what they're going to do. So it's up to you whether or not you want to go along with that or not. So how do we always end up in the bargain basement?
I mean, just think about this, Cheryl. We have the majority at the city level, at the county level, and the state level of black elected officials. But it seems as though...
But who holds their elected officials accountable for anything?
Wait, what?
I mean, who does that? Who does, if you're... let's just say this, right? We have ordinances, things that happen, things that pass, and people, are at home or you're in your neighborhood, you're like, oh man, that really stinks. Everybody got all fired up about the red light cameras. Man, this one guy made a whole a radio show just about that. It's amazing, right?
Yes.
One issue. But that was the one issue. Right? So we still have red light cameras, right? We may have less. And I noticed I was at an intersection yesterday. That's got to be one of the busiest intersections in the whole city. And I saw all kind of, at Midway, 55th and Cicero. And I can't even tell you how many cars went after the red light. And I was looking like, poof, poof, poof. Is there no red light cameras over here? There's no red light camera
Well, you know
there.
that's Madigan's district, so there are no red
And there's
light
no
cameras.
red light camera.
Notice that. There's no red light cameras in
At
Madigan's
55th
district.
and Cicero, right? So I that's a true story. Saturday this happened at 4:30 in the afternoon. Happened. So, but we've got other things that have happened, right? Besides the red light camera, ordinances, things that have happened, and nobody says anything about it, right? So, for example, we have an ordinance right now that menthol. Now, let me start by saying this.
Ooh.
No one is advocating in any way, shape, form, or fashion that anyone should smoke and should smoke menthol cigarettes or plain cigarettes or any other kind of cigarettes. We're not advocating that, but that's not the issue. The issue is, first of all, this is America, and you can if you want to, if you're an adult, right? But number two, so an ordinance was passed that menthol cigarettes cannot be sold within 500 feet of a school.
Every other cigarette can, though, right?
Sure. So, and why is that? They cited all these kind of studies, and it's not just here. It's all, it's starting to spread across the country. So, but where's the science? I don't know that there's any credible science behind that menthol is more addictive. Cigarette smoking is hazardous to your health, period, right? But so only menthol cigarettes can't be sold by school. So where do most menthol cigarettes are mostly sold? In the Black community, right? So that's one thing. But then where the white schools are, now they can have it by their schools.
So
because they don't smoke menthol. But but where's somebody should have said, hey, wait a minute.
Well, they got to drive up the illegal, they have to drive up the illegal cigarette
So that's
market.
my point.
So
where is it going? Exactly. And I'm not saying that all of our city council members by any means were
I think they were trying to do something good, or they thought they were.
I think so. I absolutely believe that. But I'm not saying that any of them were complicit in any way. I'm saying we have to look out a little bit further. And because when you're doing something that's going to encourage the underground market, that's going to encourage street sales, that's going to encourage these things, and then there's laws that are enacted. So now what? What's the next step? I mean, we got young men out here and young women that are selling loosies on the street. Within 500 feet, they're going to get thrown. I mean,
and it creates a new market, and they go to jail. So
we don't have that in the white community because they don't smoke menthol cigarettes.
Now,
how is that?
Can I tell you what's so ironic about you bringing up that situation? Is because in Springfield, a law was passed that banned flavored blunt wraps.
Sure.
With the exception of menthol flavored. Right?
So which one is it, right?
Right.
So you can't have
it was passed by a black legislator.
You can't have this. Well,
so they said you can't have the bubblegum lollipop flavor, but you can have the one that they have said targets our community, so you can put illegal products in it. But we're gonna let that go because
right. So, my point, I wasn't trying. That was just one issue I'm picking out, right? So we could pick out others.
There's plenty.
But there's plenty. But that can happen as long as the people who are affected don't say anything. So if it's my son who's liable to be out here being the one who's selling the cigarettes or whatever, because people can't buy them and they're going to buy them anyway.
They can't buy what they want, they're going to go buy what they want.
Right. They're going to get it anyway. And my son or my nephew or my next door neighbor's son is likely to be the one that's going to be arrested for selling it. Then I, as a person who lives there, as a taxpayer or a voter, should go to my local representative and say, hey, or have a meeting with my neighbors or who half of them probably are,
smoking.
So get together and say, hey, I don't like that. Whatever the issue is, I don't like that. And then you go and you keep going and you keep going until you find relief in what your situation is. And that's what I don't see. And that's how we end up. Look at Brexit. Them people weren't playing. They were not playing. No matter how you feel about it, if you take it down to the barest thing, which is the voters said, we're done.
And the voters finally got frustrated with their elected officials listening to everybody but them.
Right.
But them.
But you can't blame that on the elected officials, right? Because if it gets to the point where nobody is going to say anything, no matter what I do.
Well, that becomes the challenge, Cheryl, because I think in our state, we really have lost, in most cases, we've lost that voice.
But you feel like it's just our state? It's not just our state.
I don't think it's just our state. I think
that's the condition of the American voters right now. Except the Tea Party finally turned something else around,
and now
they made it crazy.
And now you see that they got this Donald Trump thing, and I think that while these numbers are crazy, I don't think that I don't think we can look at the numbers now. And I think liberals think that Donald Trump, they just say he's stupid, stupid, stupid. But I think there's a lot of frustrated people in the world.
No doubt about it. But I'm saying we need to be that frustrated. I'm not giving nothing to the Tea Party, but I'm not taking nothing away from them either. We need to be that frustrated with our own current situation. And I don't mean just Chicagoans or Illinoisans. I mean black people at the bottom of the barrel of the voting pool, but the ones that are dependent on, we're dependent on your vote, but we're at the bottom of the barrel when it comes down to results at the end.
Exactly, and we don't hold people accountable. Outcomes is key. So, got another question for you, because Maze Jackson, what's in it for the black people? My question is, how does the defender survive in business, or not even survive, thrive in business? Would you say that you are supported by our community, or would you say that, do you believe that black institutions support the defender? How would the defender survive on a daily basis? Not survive, thrive.
So say institutions, thrive. Be clear.
So to me, the Chicago Defender is a black institution. I think WVON is a black institution.
Yes.
I think DuSable Museum is a rapidly declining black institution. I
don't think.
So I guess my question is, are you supported by black people, or are you supported by white people? Is it a mix? How does it work? And then how much say does the controlling interest have? That's a very, right? So, okay.
No, that's not a hard question. Okay. That's not a hard question at all. So, yes, we are very supportive of black institutions, and we are supported by many black institutions.
Do you get an ad for everything that they do? When that comes, is it trade? Is it barter? How does it work?
Well, it depends on what
the deal is.
Deal is. It can go, and lots of times it's a mixture of both.
Got it.
And same with us. You know what I mean? I would love to be able to go to every single event that our sister and brother black institutions have. And I would love to be able to buy a table and to sponsor and give $5,000 or $10,000 to everything, but I cannot. And so, but what I do have is, some, depending on what it is, I do have some space available in our newspaper to be able to help them promote their event.
Got it.
Right? And vice versa. They cannot afford, most of them.
Okay.
Cannot afford to buy, a $5,000 page in my newspaper for their event when they're trying to raise money. So we support each other that way. But what we do back and forth that's much more valuable than that is we promote and we lift each other up. And so if the Urban League, if Sherry's doing a program there and it's the screening of their documentary that they did, I'm going to promote that.
Got it.
And vice versa. So, in answer to the rest of your question, yes, we do also rely on advertising, because here's what everybody needs to know about newspaper or about any publishing and pretty much any media across the board. You don't earn money from selling your newspaper, selling your magazine, from viewers or any of that, enough to be able to bankroll your operation. The life's blood of all media is advertising. Whatever form of advertising it is that you have, that is the life's blood. That is how you print the newspaper. Our circulation for most newspapers and magazines just covers the amount of money that it takes to pay somebody to deliver them.
Got it.
So that's so advertising is the lifeblood. You can't have any pages, and one page of advertising basically pays for 4 pages of
News.
Stories.
Okay.
So that's pretty much the formula across the board. So yes, we have to receive advertising from more than just our own, because if we had to be with just our own, we'd be out of business. However, it's fair, because if we only bought things that were our own, that would be one thing.
Bingo. Okay.
But we don't. So those companies that want to market to and that want to sell products and services to us have a responsibility to ask us for our business. And I'm very serious about that. I'm not only serious about that with advertisers, I'm very serious about that with anyone that's running for political office. Anyone. I do not believe that you should ever go in front of the voters and put your name on a ballot without, number one, explaining yourselves to them, and number two, you need to ask people for their vote. And so by running advertisements in our newspapers, the Citizen, the Crusader, you're directly going to our people and saying to them, I would like for you to vote for me. Would you please? May I have your vote? You need to ask them. And if you don't do that, I don't care what it is, if it's on Maze's website, however it is, you need to ask people for their vote. You do not walk in there and take that vote for granted. And when they don't do, like we talked about Duckworth, it's a huge smack in the face, because you didn't even ask for our vote, and then you went and shook people's hands
and expect it.
So that's my whole spiel. I'll get off my soapbox right now. So go ahead.
We're about to
do this album music.
We're about to no. We're running out of time. So I know people were looking forward to this. So I'm not gonna bang it as hard as I was gonna bang it. But Cheryl, so I don't know if you heard my commentary today, and I had the pleasure of going to the after party this weekend at the Night of 100 Stars. And okay. I will tell you,
to the gala. I didn't
go to the gala. I went to the after party, right? I didn't get an invitation to the gala. I'm probably on the hit list right now, but
might be now.
But I think I am. But my question. So when I went there, Cheryl, I was struck by the number of working white people at the Chicago the DuSable Museum event. And now I guess I'm kind of wondering, was I wrong to have the expectation that when I walked into a legacy, what I consider a Black legacy heritage event, to see that, am I wrong to be disappointed that it was produced by someone who was not Black? And that, I guess my question. Go ahead.
I understand your question. So where did it come from that the person who produced it was not Black? The company that produced it was not Black. I know, because I talked with Perry about this. But my understanding is there 85% of the contracts that were done for the DuSable Museum event was to and with African American companies, caterers, restaurants, businesses were 85%. So, and I don't know who was the event planner who did that particular thing, but I do know this, that again, right? So what's in it for the Black people? So I don't know. I do events.
Okay.
I do a lot of events, right? And I don't always, although I always use a Black event planner, right? Because it just works out that way, quite frankly. But I don't always get the lowest price. You know what I mean? I don't always get their rock basic price. Sometimes I get like almost like a super duper jacked up price or whatever, because people just think that you have a lot of money. I can't speak on behalf of or why or who was the producer of the event.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice event.
Mm-hmm.
It was people had a good time. I did see some white people there, but I definitely, when I checked in during the gala event, I didn't see that. I didn't see there were Black people that were there that checked you in. There were Black people all over the place. So I don't know in terms of the after party itself if there were more. I saw a couple people, but not anybody that was an authority or B, that was really hands-on with the event. I saw Black people.
So I'm not, let me say this. I saw Black people too. I just saw most of them in the positions of waiters and waitresses, and I wasn't at the gala, so I can only speak.
Oh, okay.
I can only speak on what I was invited to, which was the after party. And at the after party, what I found disconcerting was the photographer, the DJ, until we made us think about it, the greeters. It's not so much though about DuSable as much as it is about what is the obligation of Black institutions to hire Black people for Black events or Black legacy events. And when you talk about the jacked up price,
I think no. I'm just
okay.
To me, it doesn't really matter because
Right.
that's what I do anyway.
Right.
What I'm saying is that, okay, so the DuSable Museum is the DuSable Museum of African American History, correct? And the mission of the museum, that's like saying, kind of.
Come on.
I mean, I don't want to be.
Say it. Let's talk.
So if we go to the Field Museum, right, which is theirs.
It's ours.
Historical. Let's go to something else.
Let's go to the Holocaust Museum.
So everything is ours, right?
The Holocaust Museum.
The Holocaust Museum, and you see a Black person.
You would be like, "What are you doing here?" I would. I'd be like, "Whose cousin are you?"
No, you'd be like, "Yes." But the DuSable Museum, we know, relies on, just like every other museum, they rely on donors, they rely on all kinds of ways in order to be able to stay even open. And so I don't want to be the one to berate them.
I'm not berating them.
I'm just saying I don't want to be
Okay.
the one. I've seen people. I've seen a couple things that were a little bit disturbing, but like I said, I wasn't at the after party, so I don't know what happened. And quite frankly, my conversations were not about that. So about the after party. Matter of fact, I didn't even know there was an after party till the next day. So the band was up there and people were talking and the band came on and I was gone, right? So I missed the whole till 4 a.m. thing. It
wasn't till 4, it was till 2. Till midnight. Go ahead.
Okay. So I don't know about, that afterwards. I know that the majority of the people that I saw there were Black, whether they were working or not. So, but I do know, I did ask, and she said that it was 85%.
Okay. So I think that we'll find that out because we're going to attend and we'll look to FOIA that information.
Right. But before we throw people, let's not throw Perry under the bus.
First of all, I didn't throw, let's be clear. I want to be one
person.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, I can't speak for anybody else.
Right?
Dear audience, if you paid attention to everything I wrote, I never said a name. I did. First of all, I know the event planner, who I think is actually a nice person, a good person. And the people that were there, and I would say that it was a good production, right? Like, I would say that the event was produced well. But when I know that we have an Ernie Green in the world, when I know that we have Black people that can provide the services equally and the same.
That's true.
And so if we can't expect it at DuSable, I have no expectations when I go to the Field Museum. I mean, I'm like, this is what it is. When I walk into DuSable on the biggest night of the biggest Black elite, everybody out, I think that I would think to be smart enough to accommodate. Now, maybe they were smart enough to do it in the first part of the day. And in the second part of the day, they said, whoops, we're going to change it. Because at the point in which, but my point is fundamentally, what role do our Black institutions have an obligation to hire Black? And if they don't, do we have an obligation to support them? Because as a small business owner, as I walked around and I looked, quite frankly, at DuSable Museum, I'm not saying that I felt like every slot that was there that a Black person could have occupied should have been occupied. And so if we can, if they can get 98% participation at Chicago State with white Irish vendors and white women, why
is not Chicago State? It's not.
But why can't we have the same expectation at our establishment that we have? I want 100. 99.9.
And I think that everything that you're saying is valid. Like I said, we do what we do. Right? We do what we do.
Okay.
And that's the way that we do it.
So we can expect to see Black folks working.
Have you ever seen Black folks working, right? Okay. So, but that's what we do, right? So I think that if there's an opportunity to voice a concern about it, if there is, then people should. You know what I mean? And I don't think that I don't think that it's unreasonable to say that, we expect to have 100% Black participation and in terms of the work that's available. So I definitely agree with and see your point. I just think that sometimes, it's may not always be that way. I don't know who does. I mean, I can't say. I don't really notice unless it's something that's really blatant. Like, had I been there, maybe it would have been something that was very blatant, but I didn't. And normally I notice pretty stuff like that.
And I think I'm hyper conscious.
I really notice things like, I really do. I notice pretty much everything. So I didn't see that during the early part of the evening. So here's what I want to say. You know what I want to say? Nor would I have expected to see that. So to your point, nor would I have expected to see that.
Having been to that event for years and years and years and years, just understand that for me to have the white photographer stalking me, the white people on the stage, etc.
I didn't even see the photographer.
That's a problem. But
I saw a lot of cameras.
But the challenge becomes that if we can't work in our own institutions, then we can't really hold other people accountable. This is not about banging the DuSable as much as us holding us accountable. Now, I will tell you and I'm going to tell this to the Facebook audience too. If I'm wrong, I will be the first to admit it. But I will not back down, and I will continue to be a vociferous advocate for Black people and Black people being able to do business. Now, I don't have any expectations 100% I have no expectations at Notre Dame. I have expectations at Chicago State, just like I have expectations at DuSable, just like I have expectations for the Chicago Defender. And I think that if we we collectively say that that's okay, and we give people passes on these type of things, then when it gets bigger and then we have a Chicago State situation.
Yeah, I don't think that the word is passes though on this situation.
Okay, what is it?
That this word that this is an opportunity to sit down and have a discussion about it and to voice a concern. I think that that's the first step in it. I like I said, I am 100%, pro-black. I don't see where that would just across the board, because that's who I am, and also that's what I the mantle that I willingly and respectfully picked up. And so that's my perspective.
I would say that we're thankful for that, and I would say, Cheryl, I would really love to encourage you to maybe help assist or facilitate that conversation, because I do think that it probably will get bigger before it gets smaller. And I think if there are opportunities, what we want to do is create more opportunities for our community and for our age. See, what I feel like is there's kind of like this aged group of people that as long as this group of people is okay, then maybe we lose out on a lot of other people. And I think that as a young business, not young is not it, but as a entrepreneur, we want to turn over those opportunities and be vociferous about it until we find the right people for those slots. Cheryl.
Okay.
No, go ahead, finish. Go ahead. You had something to say? Well, let me just say this, ladies and gentlemen, you have been tuned in to the MazeSaid radio show and podcast, and I have had the pleasure of having the publisher, Miss Cheryl Mainor. Before she goes, though, I'm going to give you an opportunity to say some things. If there's anything that you want to share with the people, anything you want to know, don't forget to pick up your edition on Wednesdays. Chicago Defender, pick it up. I think I got something good for it too, so I'm looking forward to getting back into the group. What you got for us, Cheryl?
Maze pisses off all the wrong people or all the right people.
Well, my thing is, if I'm pissing you off, then is it something that you should be pissed off about?
Often.
Go ahead, Cheryl. What you got? Take us home.
What do we have? Well, coming up is, what is this? Where are we? June. Okay. So everybody, we're going to have, of course, Bud Billiken is coming very soon. What else? In August, we will have our first edition of the 30-40 Club, which is 30 incredible people under the age of 40. So we're really looking forward to that. And this fall, we'll have health fair and a lot of community outreach that we've been getting back into, so which I really enjoy. We also have Diversity Matters, which will be coming up in October, and then the Newsmaker of the Year at the end of the year. So lots of great candidates for that. This has definitely been a year full of news, so we should have a good thing. Please pick up your Chicago Defender or subscribe, even better. And please go to ChicagoDefender.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and we look forward to interacting with you and communicating with you. Thank you so much, Maze, for having me.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been tuned in to the MazeSaid podcast. My guest this evening has been the publisher, not the editor, not a writer, but the publisher of the Chicago Defender, Miss Cheryl Mainor, as like we always do every Monday night from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. right here, www.IntellectualRadio.com. We are an iHeart radio station. You can also get us on Facebook Live. You can tweet. Hit us up. You can catch me on www.MazeJacksonSaid.com. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns, you can always hit me on Facebook. All right, until next week. You have heard it right here, and you know what you can tell them? You can tell them, hey,
damn good. It's hard work, and I'm telling y'all, somebody got to do it. Oh, it's hard work, man. It's pretty. It's so pretty. I'm telling y'all, it don't make no sense.